following breaking news out of Chicago right now, where authorities have just released graphic body cam and dash cam video of an officer-involved shooting where an unarmed black teenager was ultimately killed by police. This is 18-year-old Paul O'Neill. He was shot dead just 8 days ago after leading police on a car chase through Chicago's South Side. Now, this chase began when officers tried to pull over O'Neill at first. He was allegedly driving a stolen vehicle. O'Neill crashed head-on into a police car and then tried to flee on foot. Watch this. Okay, now that was just one of multiple videos released today. What you're about to see next is a timeline of the shooting, beginning with the initial chase. And I have to warn you, some of what you're about to see might be disturbing.
He bowed, going west. Go ahead. Get the hell out. Your head's got it back.
Shoot at us.
7351 on Merrill. I'm sorry. We got
Are you okay, dude?
EMS clear. Okay, we need EMS. 612 Charlie. Thunder is in the yard, 7340. Merrill, all the ambulance.
Guys, you came in this yard. Let's go with you. You got anything on you?
406 boys, shots fired by the police.
You shot too? Huh? You shoot? Yeah. You?
And they shot at us too, right?
One. I shot at the car after it almost hit you.
Come on. Anybody okay?
Everybody all right? Yeah.
Okay, moments ago, O'Neill's sister just spoke out. Listen.
I would like to start off by saying that is my first little brother. I'm very hurt. Words can't describe how I feel at this moment and how I felt when it happened. But I really want everybody to know that Paul was loved by my mother, his family, me. That was everybody's best friend. He loved to keep smiles on everybody's face, joking, playing basketball. He got out of school, graduated, got his diploma, everything. We were trying to make the next step be going to Dawson so he can pick up a trade, which is for the electrical company, ComEd. But I want everybody to know that Paul had goals.
CNN's Rosa Flores is joining me now from Chicago. Okay, Rosa, we just showed a trove of video there, but there is a piece missing, a key piece of this investigation, which was the body cam video of the officer who fired the fatal shot. All we see are the officers who are running, trying to respond to the scene. You hear the shooting, but we don't see it. Why?
Well, police give us a few explanations. First of all, they do say that all of this is under investigation, but they do point out a few things. They say that, first of all, this police officer is part of a pilot program for police officer body cams, and so they've only had the body cameras for 8 to 10 days, and they don't know exactly how many times this officer had actually used the body camera, if he knew how to operate it properly. Then the other thing that they point out is that this police officer who fired that fatal shot, and like you said, it is not caught on camera, they say that the officer was in the vehicle that collided with the black Jaguar that Paul O'Neill was in. And so they don't know if in that collision, with that car crash, if something happened to the body camera, if it was deactivated, if it was somehow blocked or turned off by accident. And so they point out to those things. But Anna, like you said, it's a critical piece of evidence, because while we see all of the chatter that's going on around before and after the shooting, you can only hear the fatal gunshot. You don't see the fatal gunshot actually happen.
Right. Rosa Flores, thank you for your report. Let's talk more about this now with law enforcement expert David Katz and CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson. First, David, based on what we just watched, what we just heard in that video, from an objective standpoint in your law enforcement expertise, what stands out? Did those police officers make any wrong moves that you can see?
Okay, well, it's important to understand, number one, when they describe Mr. O'Neill as being unarmed, at the moment the shots was fired, he was armed. He was driving a car. And most departments, in fact, all of the jurisprudence allows you to fire at the driver of a vehicle if your life is endangered. So during those initial seconds where he's bearing down, there's one police officer bailing out of the car, at that moment, use of force is legally justified. Where the problem comes in is once the officers are no longer in the way, they're clear, they have to stop firing. Now you have adrenaline coursing through your body, you start firing, you're defending yourself, and that kind of lingers for a couple of seconds, but that's really going to be the issue. At what point should the officers have stopped firing because they were no longer at risk? There were other officers down the street, perhaps that was a justification, but typically is if your life is in danger, whether it's by an armed suspect or a person driving a car, you can fire in defense of your life or a fellow officer or a member of the community. Once that threat is removed, you have to stop.
And when you look at the video, we already know the officers are on the move, Joey, when they're shooting, that they are chasing this suspect. The reports are the suspect was shot in the back. Is there enough that we know so far to lead to a prosecution?
Well, Anna, we don't know just yet, but from what I see, I can tell you it's very disturbing. Let's talk about the legal and then let's talk about the practical. From a legal perspective, you look at three things. Where's the immediacy of the danger? David Katz speaks to the issue of if you feel your life is in danger, you are in a police car or stepping out of it. Is the driver looking to run you over? And is it necessary or otherwise appropriate to move up to the level of lethal force at that point, particularly when departmental regulations in Chicago forbid shooting at a car that's moving? And so the issue immediately will become, did you think you were going to die? That's the standard. And if the answer is no, it's troubling. Then you move to the question of the proportionality of the force, Anna. Why were there repeated shots, repeated shots, repeated shots? The car is driving away. You cannot reasonably argue, whether you're a prosecutor or a defense attorney, when a car is moving away from you, that there's any type of danger, so why are you shooting? And then you get to the point of reasonableness. Is your conduct reasonableness? Now look, is it reasonable? Now looking at all those three factors, again, it's under investigation. I get it, I understand, but to this point, it's quite troubling. Now we move to the issue of he's out of the car and he's now moving. That is Mr. O'Neill, the teenager who shot. What would give the officers the justification at the time the fatal shot was fired, which we don't see, to fire the shot in the first instance? A person's running away. Were you being shot upon? Were you being attacked? Were you otherwise endangered? That's the analysis that has to come. So will there be a prosecution? I do not yet know. It obviously needs to be vetted and looked at more closely. But from what I see here, I have to tell you that it's significantly troubling that someone's dead, and you have to ask yourself, did that have to happen? Should there not be some use of force continuum where lethal force is the last resort, not the first?
Yeah. And activists are also upset not just about the lethal force, but what happened after the shooting and that portion that we do see in the video. Let's watch.
Man, I'm gonna be on that desk for 30.
The gun. Hey, he shot back, right?
So you hear a lot of swear words. They're kind of nonchalantly, it looks like, going up to the scene there. We don't know exactly which officer said what, but David, what's your reaction to that?
Okay, which part?
Just what happened afterwards, their response.
Well, look.
They seem kind of callous, according to the activists that are out there.
Frankly, what the perspective of the activists really isn't the issue. The issue is, as Joey mentioned, what was in the state of mind of the police officer during the shots. And Joey, although you're usually brilliant and you are right on point, a couple things I need to just tweak a little bit. You don't have to be in fear necessarily of your life. It's also that you're in fear of being seriously injured. That's number one. Number two, you don't have to delve into the mind of the person who is driving towards you. If you are at risk, that's enough. Question is, what, as Joe mentioned, once that reason to defend yourself disappears, where's the justification? Did he lunge? Did he reach in an area commonly used to secrete a weapon? We don't know that because the camera's absent. So that's the question. But as it appears now, there's no justification based on a typical self-defense, even a law enforcement self-defense scenario, to support that, but we have to wait until we know a little more.
Joey, how big of a deal is that missing link, that piece of video, which would be the officer's body cam, the officer who fired the fatal shots?
I mean, Anna, obviously you want to evaluate all the information that's before you, but you know, in looking at everything, you have to question why there was being shot. What shots fired to begin with? And I beg to differ on the issue of whether you feel you're going to die. You're in a car, the car is stolen. It does not appear to me that the officer is, you know, serious injury. Where's the serious injury coming from? Where?
Well,
and so why would you fire? And so that's going to be questioned. And then moving to why, in fact, the shot was, you know, why were they shot and killed at the scene? Of course, we don't see that. It would be important to know. But then you look, and medical evidence is important too. Where's the trajectory of the bullet? If it's in the back, as reports suggest, it becomes further problematic. And then just talking about one other thing on, if I can, I think now what you have to look to is the transparency of any type of investigation. I certainly applaud them for allowing the videotapes to be released so the public can see it. But now to the hard question of rolling up the sleeves and finding out what happened, I think across the country you need independent investigations so the community can rely upon the actual result. You don't need a particular entity that works with the police, that oversees the police, to actually be looking and viewing this. I think you need some outside entity to do it. It'll foster and engender a greater trust within the community.
All right, Joey Jackson and David Katz, thank you both. Up next, Hillary Clinton.
There's more breaking news. Chicago police have released body cam video of a deadly police shooting. The victim, a young, unarmed African-American man who was shot in the back following a car and foot chase. Police officials say the incident violated department protocol. Let's dig deeper right now with the former FBI Assistant Director, our Senior Law Enforcement Analyst, Tom Fuentes. Tom, I want to show a little bit of the video, get a sense of what's going on. It's pretty graphic, could be very disturbing to some of our viewers, but let's play some of it right now.
I can't.
Keep going back to Merrill. Going back to Merrill. Look for male black short hair, gray shirt.
All right, so Tom, from what you see, and you've looked at this video very closely, did police officers act appropriately?
Well, I think, Wolf, when it's told that they violated department policy, it probably has to do with shooting at the vehicle in the first place. Normally, it's against policy to shoot at a vehicle that's leaving, mostly because it's almost impossible to stop the car. The tires are made out of Kevlar, like bulletproof vests. The body of the car is hard to penetrate with a handgun. So normally, you don't want bullets being sprayed all over a neighborhood. Now, in this case, the first shots you see, the subject vehicle is lateral, so it's passing the officer that's shooting. So it is possible to shoot through a side window and stop that car, which has just rammed a police car, which has just deliberately basically been used as a weapon against the police. So that first couple of shots may have been justified. Later, as the vehicle's fleeing, it's pretty much, I think at that point, just the adrenaline of the officer to not stop shooting.
Because that could endanger passersby,
innocent
people walking on the sidewalk, for example, if you start shooting at a fleeing automobile.
Absolutely.
So that's a serious
and that's why most
that's a serious problem.
Even if it's legal to try to stop that vehicle, departments ban the policy because it's just dangerous to the rest of the public.
It was an 18-year-old who was shot and killed. So what happens now? They've got the video. What happens next?
Well, there's an independent review group in Chicago that looks at police shootings. So it'll be up to them to do the rest of the investigation. And there's a great deal of investigation to do in this case. You know, were any weapons in that Jaguar, the stolen vehicle? Did anybody shoot from the vehicle that may have created the impression on the officers that when they took off running, they possibly had a gun with them?
The new police chief in Chicago and the mayor, Rahm Emanuel, they're getting a lot of praise for releasing this video, but you agree with them it should have been released?
Well, I think yes. I mean, you're going to have to release it, and the longer you delay, it looks like you're covering up. However, they also need to say that there's a lot of investigation that needs to be done still into this whole matter, not just the actual fatal shots of the subject, but the vehicle, the theft of that vehicle, the 3 subjects involved, did they have records You know, obviously they're resisting arrest when they rammed that car into a police car.
Tom Fuentes, thanks very much.
Welcome.
A former CIA.
Hi everybody, my name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so I just want to point out about this, what really bothers me about these kind of videos that we see all the time where cops are opening fire is you understand that the reason that the cops aren't able, that it's illegal for the cops to shoot at somebody when they're running away from them, shoot at them in their back, isn't so much to protect the person that they're shooting at. It's because the bullets travel, and if they're not in danger, you know, bullets can go a lot of different places. Even if you hit your intended target, there's a good chance it might go somewhere else. And if they're not in danger, if they're not somehow, you know, their life is not threatened at that moment, them firing a bunch of bullets puts other people in danger. And if you look at this neighborhood, it looks like a very nice neighborhood. It looks like very nice. I bet children live there. You think children live in that neighborhood? I bet old people live there. You think old people live in that neighborhood? You think the cops thought about the old people, that those bullets that they're going blah, 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 just firing off bullets like it's the fucking Wild West, like it's a freaking video game? You think they thought about the children or the old people or the cats and dogs or anybody other than the video game that they were playing in their head at that moment? I know they didn't. You know how I know that they didn't think about anybody else? Because you see the one cop body camera and he's like shooting at the car as it's going by, and the other cop is like directly on the other side of the car. Okay? Those bullets travel. They could hit the car and bounce. They could bounce right up and into that cop's throat. They could hit the asphalt and bounce right up into that cop's eyeball and right through his skull. Okay, so we're talking about his brother in blue, who he cares about more than anything. He's shooting bullets his general direction. Okay, I've shot a lot of bullets. Okay, I wouldn't be shooting. I would. There's just no way I'd be shooting like these cops are shooting. This video shows these cops shooting. I've shot a lot of bullets. A lot of bullets. I would never shoot like they just showed these cops shooting. They're like shooting like it's a shooting range, and the bullets are never, because you know there's there's cement walls, metal plating. The bullets are never going to go anywhere past the shooting range. No, there's old people and little kids and cats and dogs, and they act like there's no responsibility going to be that they have to answer to at all. It's, you know, I mean, you can see them after the shooting. They're all, I'm going to Disney World. I get to go on vacation. No, I just killed a guy. Fuck, I just killed a guy for no reason. He was running away. I just opened fire in a neighborhood when I didn't have to. I just endangered my fellow brother in blue. When I had it was absolutely unnecessary. I just really need to say that, because that's what I see happening in this video, and that's what I see happening in a lot of these police shooting videos, is that they're firing a lot of bullets in a neighborhood where little children most likely live, and bullets travel. Oh, I mean, this is like the first thing you learn when you start shooting, is bullets travel. Hard to stop a bullet. Anyways, I thought that needed to be said, since none of these specialists and professionals and analysts can tell you the truth like that. I figured it was important to be said. So, thanks for tuning in. My name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Okay, I'm going to do it my way. Stay cool. One of these days this war is going to end.
Compassion stirred the Buddha to send his monks out into the community. Sworn to chastity and poverty, they wandered the roads, bringing the Buddha's teachings into the world. Go forth, monks, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world. There are beings whose eyes have little dust on them, who will perish if they do not hear the teaching. But if they hear the teaching, they will gain liberation.
The monks exist by begging. We think of begging as kind of a bad thing. Begging in this tradition is a good thing. It's a sign of spiritual purity.
You're not allowed to beg tomorrow's lunch today. Only today's lunch. Then you can't eat from noon until dawn the next day. Then you have to go out and get another lunch. And then in exchange for lunch, you give a lecture. Unless they say we don't want to hear about it, then you don't. But that's the only thing but that forces you to interact with the lay community.
And if you're not serving them, if you're not doing something useful for them, they won't put anything in your bowl, and that will be the end of your community.